Well, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
And here we are at the Mood House once again. Get everything started and rolling the tape this morning. So let's turn to Genesis chapter 33. This is week 114. And we'll read in just a moment verses 12 through 17 in Genesis 33. See you, Jim. And yeah, lots happened in the last week. Gee, Sandra and I have made a goal this year of visiting each of our grown children on their birthdays. So the first one was over the weekend. So we spent the weekend down south of Gunnison with Annie and her boyfriend up at Arrowhead, and it was just a wonderful place to be. We got to play in the snow all weekend and ride snowmobiles and fix snowmobiles and dig snowmobiles out, and just so we made an extended weekend and we got home yesterday. So it seems like a lot has happened last week. So let's actually why don't we read the text and then I'll make the comments. So somebody read verses 12 through 17.
Then Esau said, "Let us journey on our way, and I will go ahead of you." And Jacob said to him, "My Lord knows that the children are frail, and that the nursing flocks and herds are a care to me. If they are driven hard for one day, all the flocks will die. Let my Lord pass on ahead of his servant, and I will lead on slowly, at the pace of the livestock that are ahead of me, and at the pace of the children, until I come to my Lord and Seir." So Esau said, "Let me lead with you some of the people who are with me." But he said, "What need is there? Let me find favor in the sight of my Lord." So Esau returned that day on his way to Seir. But Jacob journeyed to Succoth and built himself a house and made booths for his livestock. Therefore the name of the place is called Succoth.
Or booths. All right, thanks, David. All righty, well, we looked last time, we took kind of a time out and reviewed Jacob's journey. And here's a map that we used from last time. I'd like to blow it up on the screen, but I'm having technical problems. When I blow it up, I lose everything else on the slide presentation, so I can't do that. But I've got here, I know you can't read it in the back, but it says 450 miles. Jacob has journeyed. Remember, as a young man, he was raised in the Beersheba area, and then, of course, he journeyed way north on the Fertile Crescent up to Haran, and that's where he's lived the bulk of his adult life. And now God has called him back down into the land, and a journey of about 450 miles. Esau settled here, Edom, and that's where, of course, Big Brother, I'm calling Esau Big Brother, and he's saying, "Come on, let's take on this journey together." And that's where we want to pick up on the text today as we move ahead. It's working. So I've got this dialogue happening between little brother and big brother. Even though we know they're twins, we know the story quite well. And here's a quick dialogue of what's going on. We've got big brother saying to little brother, "Come, let's journey on together. Let's pull together." After they've had this warm embrace and reunion after so many years, big brother is being big brother and saying, "Come on, let's journey together. I'll take you home and show you everything that what's been happening the last 50 years. So little brother then responds and said, "I need to go at my own pace." And there's that key phrase in there, according to the pace. According to the pace of the livestock, according to the pace of the children. And that phrase really captured me. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But he says, "I need to go at my own pace." And then Big Brother then comes back and then responds from that and says, "Well, then at least let me give you some resources, for your journey." And then little brother says, "I can manage just fine." So that's really the flow of the text. And as we kind of move move on in this, what I'd like to ask you is, what do you guys think is the motivation of each? What's the motivation of Big Brother? What's behind this? And what do you think is the motivation? What's motivating this very straightforward dialogue between these two brothers? So, first of all, what do you think is motivating Esau here, Big Brother, and his two phrases, his two sentences come, let's journey together, and then at least let me give you resources. What's behind this, in your opinion? What's his motivating drive here?
He may want to regain control.
Well, he may, yeah.
As you say, the older brother, he's a little older.
Yeah, very little older. And of course, he's
But
coming
he
from...
wants to maybe dominate.
Well, okay, that, of course, we're always looking for what's the motivation. Of course, that's my motivation in asking the question. One of those motivations could be to gain control. Of course, how many of you are big brothers? Some of you, yes, yeah. And there's a certain role that you play, and in that family order. And both of my brothers are way smarter than me, but I'm still the big brother. And I've learned over the years, I wasn't aware of this as a younger man, but I am aware of that role in the family, and I try not to take advantage of that. Work hard. Besides that, they can gang up on me and outsmart me. But one of those motivations could be control. What could be another motivation?
Restoration of the loss over all this time.
Yes, I mean, exactly. And that's kind of the other side of things, Carl, is that it could just simply see this. Let's capture that. Let's see. We've lost all these years. Let's recapture and restore those things in our relationship. Absolutely. And what better way to do that than to be together, to journey together? We've been journeying separate for all these years. Now let's journey together. Okay. Good. Bill had a comment.
I don't know if it's a motivation, but it's a personality trait. I mean, it seems his whole life is very impulsive.
Esau?
Yeah.
Yeah, just look at his hair, guys.
I'm famished and gonna die.
Yeah,
like his hair here. I mean, going way back to when he said, famished, give me some food or I'm gonna die. Here's my birthright, or I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy is just mercurial. He's just,
Yeah.
he's impulsive, both sides, good and bad.
Uh-huh.
And I think Jacob doesn't want to get caught up in that.
It could be, yeah. Any of you ever go to an old high school reunion? And there's some aspects of it that never change, but you find as you age, you really enjoy those reunions because everyone has kind of mellowed out a little, quite a bit. So we have to give him some latitude here that possibly age has done some really good things to him as well. Okay, so we've got two motivations that you guys have cited on Big Brother's side, and that's one is he could be trying to manipulate control. Dick didn't use that word, but gain control. And then Carl said, gee, well, maybe it's just he wants to bring restoration back and be together. What about little brother? What do you think is motivating Jacob here? And think about what's happened to Jacob's life. What do you think, what could be the motivating factors here?
I think there's two things there. He wants to keep his own pace, he says, but his own identity. But he is thinking of his flocks, and he's thinking of the children, but maybe they're just an excuse, because I'm sure that Big Brother would have slowed down anyway. I mean, I think that
Yeah.
agreed to travel. They knew that the flocks and the kids couldn't keep up. So I think he's just being cautious and using the flocks and the children as a excuse for not getting together.
Okay, so caution and a gracious excuse. Because where is he going? Where is Jacob going? And why is he going there?
Because he's going to where God told him to go.
Okay, yes, I think that's a pretty important factor here.
I think some of his caution, though, too, is what he's just come out of. He spent years trying to breed the sheep and the goats and everything to build up his kingdom, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And now he's thinking, Big Brother may be trying to get back some of the stuff I basically stole from him. So he maybe wants to get us all together so that he can manipulate things to take some of what I have. I think that may be some of the caution.
Yeah, there's distrust. I think there's residual distrust here.
Okay. Boy, it just bears weight on how complex we are as human beings, because we all don't read the text the same. We know the story. We've been studying the story, and all of what you're saying is true. Yes, Alan.
Well, the concordance here that I've got says that Jacob did not decline the offer because he trusts the protection of God more than he trusts Esau and his men. And then it goes on to say, until I come to my Lord in Seir, but Jacob will, still the deceiver, had no intention of following Esau all the way.
Okay, so that position there is he really hasn't changed a whole lot, that he's still got this deceptive kind of, it's as valid as any of our opinions. I'd like to just move on, though, and I'll give you my take. And my take is no more valid than anybody else's take. And it bears out, again, the complexity of how we perceive relationships and human beings. Is that there can be a lot going on under the surface in our interactions. I'm taking kind of a face value approach here, and honestly, I think I would kind of go with what Carl was saying on Big Brother's side, that I think he is so happy, and I think all things in the text point to the fact that he has worked through this pain and difficulty. Of course, it's certainly valid to be waiting for the other shoe to drop, and some of you have cited that, but I see Esau in this text is stepping forward, even though he is the big brother, but I think it's love. I think he wants a restored relationship with his brother, and I'm just taking face value. Little brother, on the other hand, I think that Jacob has had a very significant experience in his life after building years and years and years of doing it the way Jacob does things. And I think that he has a real vision from God, and he's motivated to go and do what his calling is, a little brother calling. Not under the protection of Big Brother, but he's stating what his calling is and his limit, and he's simply, it could be an excuse, but he realizes after all these years the care that is needed in this journey. I mean, who would know better than Jacob, because has been every day on this journey for days and weeks, possibly months here in this journey. And well, yes, it'd have to be months, and just because of the mere distance. And he knows what's involved. He knows the limitations of what he's able to do. And it could be an excuse, maybe not. So I say that Jacob is driven by a vision, and the vision of God to go back to the land. And of course, we know that Scripture certainly supports that idea. He goes back to the land, and yet the limitations within what it takes to get there, daily travel. A lot of wisdom, I think, in this, even though he could be, yes, I think Charlie brought out a good point. I think Esau's a grown man. He'd know that he could slow things down, but this is what he cited. So there's the interaction, my take, motivation. And now this phrase, according to the pace, that really captured me. And early on, I'm looking at this, and I know you can't read it. I'll read it. There's an observation here. Early Jacob forced life into what he wanted life to become. Not a whole lot different than me, and possibly you. We got to make it happen. Jacob was a guy who made it happen to his own advantage. Here we see both Jacob and his brother Esau responding to life. Responding to life, what is happening. Allowing life to happen without the need to induce control. Now, somebody had said possibly control. I mean, you've heard my take and my position, and it's not any more valid than yours. But but this is how I'm interpreting it, is that this phrase, according to the pace, one key observation is that I think Jacob has had a transformational experience. I think he is playing with a different set of clubs now. He has a different eyesight, a perception. He's not perfect, just like you and I, but there's been some change that has occurred through his encounter, through a tremendous amount of pain and his encounter with Almighty God. Yes?
This is not to be cynical, but they're both speaking from a position of abundance. They both have achieved things. They're doing fine. Life is good for them right now, and I think it's easy to be magnanimous when you're got a lot of stuff to be magnanimous with. I mean, there's no need for distress in these relationships. I don't know what happened if that would change, but at this point in time, life's good for both of them.
Yeah, they've stated that in the text. It says, "I have plenty."
Yeah, we're doing good.
Yeah.
And then there's sort of a sense of everyone gets along really well when they're all doing good.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Well, there's four observations.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm just not sure where that goes with that, but I'm just looking at it. Everyone's happy here.
Yeah. So, guys, the way this captured, or why this captures me, is that I really relate to this phrase, according to the pace. Guys, I think differently now than I did years ago. As a man in my 30s and 40s, and I don't know, it takes a long time, but it was, let's make it happen. By golly, let's drive it and drive it and drive it, and many of you, I'm sure, because it's in our nature, is squeeze life into the mold that I think it needs to be, and for very good purposes. Or seemingly good purposes. But now, the way I think is, no, there is a certain pace. And I know that over the years that, after my wife, or my mom's husband passed away, it's her second husband, not my dad. Bud, myself and my brother became her primary caregiver. She lived in Greeley, and she's been gone now a little over a year. But for 3 years, the way my brother teaches over there, and then I'm over here, but I said every Wednesday afternoon to go see my mom, and I missed very few. And of course, I was criticized by some, because, well, you're so rigid, every Wednesday, why can't it be? Well, that's just the way I did it. And I thought it worked pretty well. But I learned in a hard way, mom's pace, and mom's pace is not my pace, and we learned together how to move in a pace. For instance, I would show up ready to go do the day's activities, and it was 30-45 minutes while she put on her makeup, and guys, that's difficult. It would be difficult for you, week after week, to expect that, you know, but I would say over that 3-year period, I learned a great deal of patience on how to wait. And of course, once she was ready to go, then you know, we'd leave, and she said, well, while, you know, we'd have usually one goal, one out errand to run or store to go to or something, but she would oftentimes try to throw in another another deal, and it worked. You know, sometimes we could do that, but I said, Mom, you know, I really think because of the given time today, and of course my trump card is, well, you know, then we wouldn't have time for me to take you out for supper. And she goes, oh, we got to go do that. And we would really enjoy that. You know, it was a time when we'd go out and just talk over a, you know, a simple meal. But it was really good for me. It was good for her, and it was really good for me those 3 years, learning about a pace, a different pace, that things just don't operate at my pace. I have to learn to respond to what is happening in life and adapt. And adapt. So here's four observations that I see from the text that I made, and I'll submit them to you. The first one is I see both brothers fully engaged in this whole interaction, starting with the running to Esau running to his brother and grabbing him, that very emotional embrace and weeping together. These guys are engaged. They're not looking at their phones and doing other things that we people do, but they're both fully engaged and living the moment. I can't emphasize that enough. And that is something that we learn over time, is how to do it. Not that we do it all the time, but we know how to fully, at this stage of life, to fully engage in that moment and enjoy that moment for what it is. And so that's the first thing. The second thing, or the observation rather, is this, is that, and I pull this from Jacob's response, he graciously, notice graciously, he's learned how to graciously respond to choose to follow the greater voice. You know, I know enough about this that the big brother, when the big brother's present, the big brother has a bigger voice, generally speaking. The big brother will always be the big brother. But Jacob was able to graciously respond to something bigger. Do you see that? I mean, everything in his response is his brothers say, "Come on, let's go do it." You know, let's go do it together. Let's go journey together. And Jacob said, "No, he didn't use this language, but he says, "No, I've got to go at my own pace and at my own leisure." See that? And it was a gracious response. He says, "No, I'm not going back with you. No, I've got my own pace here." And I thought, man, that is a wonderful skill that we learn in life. Hopefully, to be able to respond that way. Graciously choose to follow the greater voice. The third one is allowing the other freedom to choose. This is Esau. Esau backs off of the big brother for a moment, and he says, "Well, okay, if you don't want me to go with you, at least allow me to leave you some help." Again, we looked at motivation. And then he's turned down the second time. And Jacob says, "No, I think I can take care of myself just fine." I look at Esau as a very mature response here of allowing his brother to be who his brother is called to be. Oh my goodness, there is so much there of so much motive in our being to control the situation in a nice Christian kind of way. But here he leaves and lets his brother choose and gives him the freedom. And last one is You know, we see the brothers coming together. We see an exchange, the invitation to now journey together, and there's something in us that would want that, to see that happen in the story of the two brothers joining up and building the giant Esau Jacob corporation, or so, you know, whatever, and live happily ever after. But they separate, and there's an aspect of life about, huge, guys, the ability to respond and to speak definitively and concisely, and then whatever that decision is to let the rest go and go the fork on the road and do your thing, and allow others around you to do their thing. As parents, this is huge. What do you do when your children make decisions that you don't necessarily agree with? I mean, all of us who are parents have had this at one time or another. And to what degree, and how do we let that go? And to keep the relationship intact. We're not very good at this as human beings, because we're trying to force. A lot of times we don't grow in our own thinking, and we're forcing controls into our loved ones out of what we think it's good for them, and it's only driving a wedge deeper in that relationship. Do any of you? Some of you are nodding, and the rest of you are in denial. But that's okay. Rest of us. I mean, we're all in the same boat, guys. But let it go. Learning to let things go. You know, give your decision, let it go, and then move ahead unencumbered. We call it in our culture baggage. You know, baggage free. David.
This leads me to reconsider again, as I've done before, to go back to further digging what you've kind of going through here, and going back to Jacob's wrestling encounter. And you know, there's so much unknown there.
Oh,
and
my
in the
goodness, yeah.
identity and all the rest of this. But what I'm going to go back and pray and consider more is maybe the baseline plank that Jacob carried out of that encounter, that wrestling encounter, was the knowledge that he is not in control.
Wow. Yeah.
And not only is he not, but he now recognizes who is. And I see that response to the Father, to God, in the way he's handling
Yeah.
things. A lot different from what he used to do.
Yeah.
I
It
just
really is,
wonder-
in my opinion.
I wonder if that's a major
Yeah.
takeaway that he had from the
Uh-huh.
wrestling match. I'm not in control.
I think if we had time this morning, we only have a couple minutes, and I'm going to wrap up. But I think every man in this room could relate in some regard to that idea of learning to give up control. Not that we're all there yet. Not that any of us are fully there yet. But we know, I got it just by the mere age of our group. There had to be something occur in your life that you had to let go. And by golly, through letting go, it gave opportunity for God Almighty to step in a powerful way and to take that. And wow, that felt pretty good. There's life after letting go. And then to walk away free and uncovered. Oh, what a gift. So, in review, fully engage within the moment. I see both brothers, just the mere scene of the two brothers, fully engaged. Graciously choosing to follow what I'm calling the greater voice, the greater vision. In this case, it was Jacob's call. And then from Esau's example, allowing the other freedom to choose, turned down twice, and big brother his ego wasn't offended. He let it go. That's a wonderful, powerful thing that's happened in Esau's life. And then in both of them, let it go. Let it go and move along unencumbered with life. That phrase, according to the pace, huge amount of wisdom. If we could dwell on that this week, of what did it mean to live according to the pace and not try as former days to squeeze everything into my agenda. Amen.
Amen.